When it comes to your average engine used by a car, things like gasoline engines and diesel engines really don't have that great of efficiency. A gasoline engine, on average, uses about 30% of the available energy that comes in the form of gasoline. Now that really isn't all that great, and it isn't, because it leads to a lot of extra fumes and things coming out of the tailpipe. But on the other hand, when we look towards renewable energies and alternatives to gasoline, hydroelectric power is a much better example of efficiency. The energy coming into hydroelectric power on average uses 90% efficiency compared to just 30% when it comes to gasoline engines. So when the question was asked that the United States should focus more on hydroelectric power, we have to answer yes for three main points. First off, we have to look that the United States is in a prime position to take advantage of hydroelectric power. Secondly, the United States and its consumers can benefit greatly economically from the use of hydroelectric power. And lastly, when it comes to the environment, the United States should focus on hydroelectric power because not only can it be sustained, but it can also be improved through the use of hydroelectric power in dams. So the first thing that we look towards is the potential energy and usable area that we have when it comes to hydroelectric power in the United States. An article in 2008 by the National Renewable Energy Lab, which is run by the U.S. Department of Energy, found that there are 250,000 rivers in the United States, and that equates to roughly 3.5 million miles of rivers. Now that sounds like a lot, and it is, because when it comes to dams, there's also 79,000 dams in the United States as it currently stands. But when it comes to dams that are utilizing hydroelectric power, it's only 2,500. So there are many dams right now that can not only be retrofitted, but we can create more to utilize hydroelectric power. So not only do we have the distance and the mileage to be able to do this, but we also have a lot of dams right now that can also just be retrofitted, which is much cheaper, and we don't have to pour as much concrete and get the area ready. We just have to put reservoirs and hydroelectric power equipment into it. And because of that, we can take advantage of that, and there's a lot of usable area. So, in conclusion, we can see that through the first point, we can utilize a lot of area in the United States and take advantage of hydroelectric power. The second point I'd like to talk about is the economic benefit, not only to the United States as a whole, but to the consumer. An article in 2009 by the Journal of Environmental Management, a year-long study which was done by the Department of Economics at Bates College, found that there were multiple benefits to hydroelectric power. The first one was economic independence, which means moving away from the Middle East when it comes to fossil fuels. Second, it was tourism and recreational areas created through hydroelectric dams and reservoirs. And lastly, it was the job growth we would see from not only retrofitting dams, but creating new ones to provide more hydroelectric power. Through the economic independence, we would see that once hydroelectric power is used more, we can move away from using so much fossil fuel and petroleum from other places. Now, while the United States is now the current leader in development of petroleum and creation of that, we still use a lot of it that's coming from other countries. So once we can move to independence, we will benefit it from economically, because we don't have to worry about other countries' economies failing or other wars like what's currently going on in the Middle East, which can represent a large portion of the petroleum we take in. And if wars lead to the worst of it, it will affect our economy in the end. The next thing I'd like to look at is tourism. They also found that once dams are put into place and once reservoirs are created behind them, there's a lot of lake recreational areas. You can even look towards Yankton, South Dakota, where there's multiple recreation areas like the Lewis and Clark, where not only is there job growth there, but property value rises as well for the private consumer. People that are located on the reservoir, their property becomes worth more, and in a way they do make more money off of the hydroelectric dam being created. The last thing we have to look at is job growth. Now, when it comes to retrofitting dams and creating new ones, somebody has to do it. And the Bates College also found that more people would have to be hired and more STEM jobs would be created, not only by hydroelectric power technology development, but the actual maintenance and creation of new dams, which we would have to make to support this hydroelectric push. So in conclusion, we can see that through the United States focusing more on hydroelectric power, we would see economic benefits coming from economic independence for the United States, tourism and land prices increasing, benefiting the consumer, and lastly, we would see job growth also benefiting the consumer and lowering unemployment. And for that, we should also focus on hydroelectric power. Now the last point, the third point we have to talk about, is hydroelectric power improving the environment. In 2004, a document published by the U.S. Department of Energy, focusing on 4 major laboratories across the United States, which focuses on hydroelectric power and environmental benefits, they found that basically dirty fuels can impact the environment, obviously, through CO2 and global warming, and we can decrease that by the use of hydroelectric power. We also found that reservoirs create habitats for fishes that are in the area currently, and that the reservoirs create more area for fish to spawn. And lastly, salmon ladders and other forms of preventative equipment can avoid disruption of spawning and other natural ways the fish move. So the dams, in all reality, even though they are blocking water movement, fish and other animals can still move through them with ease. So the first point we talk about is the dirty fuels. Obviously right now there's a lot of fossil fuel usage and petroleum usage, and those two alone right now are leading the United States along with coal. But as we can see, hydroelectric power is on the rise, and we need to focus more upon it because we can take advantage of this source, as we've seen in my first point. So if we take advantage of it, the environment will also be saved. The second point I'd like to talk about is the reservoirs. Once you put a dam into place, a few miles in every direction, we can see a lot of water being created into a lake. Like, for example, in Yankton again, the Missouri River that was there currently used to just be a river, but now since the dam is in that position, there now is a reservoir for fish to spawn and for recreational. So the animals that are in the area can take advantage of it, and there's more water for natural habitats and spawning. And lastly, with the salmon ladders and other preventative measures, they can avoid animals going into turbines, they can make sure that the animals can still move upstream, and it doesn't affect any form of natural spawning that they have going on currently. So the animals can still move the way they usually do, and we still benefit from it economically. So in conclusion, we can see that through dirty fuel consumption decreasing and reservoirs being created and salmon ladders and other preventative measures being put in place, the environment not only is going to benefit from this, but we can make sure that it's maintained carefully through the use of dams. So in the end, we have to see that every single person that hears about this needs to talk to their form of government. Now at the individual level, it's not possible for somebody to create a dam, but the way that we do have to go through this is making sure we talk to our representatives, and it's simple as a telephone call. They're always open and they are elected to lead, so because of this, an opinion should be brought forward. For all the 3 reasons of it being not only prime utilization area in the United States, secondly, the economic benefits we would see from it, and lastly, protecting our environment, every single person needs to go and talk to their local representative and make sure that this becomes a #1 priority for the United States. Thank you.